So, good evening, everybody. My name is Emanuele Quintarelli, and I'm part of Boundaryless. Boundaryless is a small organization that for the last few years have been helping companies to rethink their strategy by looking at platforms, at ecosystems, at multi-sided markets. And today I'm going to talk about our experience, our story of reflecting on the organizational implications about platform design. And more specifically, I will talk about Rendanheyi, a model that has been created by Hire, the current leader in white good appliances. And we'll try to explain a bit of the model and especially a bit about its huge potential when you are trying to be or to become a platform. And my starting point is really from the market. This guy, Martin Reeves, is a partner in BCG, is the chairman of the BCG Anderson Institute. And in a conversation with us, he remarked how 10 years ago, none of the largest organizations in the world were ecosystems. Now, 7 out of the 10 top technological companies are. And what does it mean? It means that if we want to empower a huge number of actors, thousands or millions of people to interact together, to create value together in a multi-sided marketplace, probably we need to do something different inside of the firm. And more specifically, if the traditional goal of organization design is to create scalable efficiency, what we want to do in a platform is to maximize, to accelerate learning, to increase our ability to see diverse perspectives, to empower the creation of value from multiple actors. That means that the typical top-down hierarchical design is no longer working. So even if we may think about ecosystems and platforms as something that are outside from the firm, an appendage of the firm, actually there is a strong, intimate relationships between ecosystems and between what happens inside of the firm. And why is that? This guy, Matt Conway, in 1967, came up with this concept that then has been called Conways Law. Conway was a programmer, but he made a statement that says that any organization that designs a system could be anything, could be a piece of software, or it could be a product. Any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization communication structure. And let me give you a couple of examples of this. The first example is the website of public administrations. I don't know if it ever happened to you, but my experience, when you go to the site of a public administration, the information architecture, the structure of the content is usually not the one you would expect as a citizen looking for services. Is one representing the functional structure of the organization, something that as a citizen probably you don't understand. Another example of this is Spotify. Spotify became the poster child of agile design with tribes, with guilds, with squads. Well, that is only possible because the product itself that Spotify created is based on microservices. So at the end, it's a bundle of different pieces that communicate with each other. And what Conway is saying is that behind those modules, there are teams. And the interfaces between the modules are also the interfaces between the teams. So at the end, what the organization is designing, is providing to the market is a mirror of how the organization works inside. That's why at the end Martin Reeves is highlighting the implication of aggregators of marketplaces on organization design. But there is another interesting aspect to consider, and that's Ashby's law. Ashby was the father of cybernetics. He was interested in building control mechanisms. And he said, if a system wants to be stable, the number of states of its control mechanism has to be greater than or equal to the number of states in the system being controlled, or in other terms, only variety destroys variety. As we could say today, variety is information. A higher variety means higher complexity. And to control a system, you need to know all the configurations of the system, the behavior of the system. And when the system that you want to control is a market, is a platform, the level of variety is really huge, that there is no way you can act on it by having a monolithic, functional, a vertical, a very well-confined organization. To embrace the variety of a market, there is a multi-sided market, you need that variety also inside the organization. And again, let me give you another example of how this is playing out. These are two companies that are doing very well on the market, but they are achieving this result in two very different ways. On one side, we have Apple. On the other side, we have Amazon. Apple has only a few monolithic products that are closed, basically. They tend to control the experience. They tend to control the environment to reach a faster innovation process. The inside of the organization is a mirror of this market ambition. The organization is divided by functions in a very traditional way. There is a vertical chain of command. There is only one profit and loss. And in the end, the organization is trying to control variance and to impose a leadership on the product. Very successful, but in a sense, very rigid. Amazon is leveraging a totally different strategy. They have many products. They have many markets. And at the end, these products are open. They want to create interfaces between the pieces. And this idea became a memo that has been sent to all employees many years ago from Jeff Bezos, saying, you can do whatever you want, but basically you have to work in teams that can be fed by two pizzas. And these teams have to interact through APIs. You cannot go beyond those APIs. You have to follow the APIs. Then within the team, you can do whatever you want. This organization is an organization that is optimized in its pieces to take ownership for the profit and loss, but also to take ownership for being optimized respect to the market. So the goal is not control here, it's empowering the success and the exploration of the different pieces. On one side, we have an empire, very monolithic, very robust. On the other side, we have more of an anti-fragile organization that tries to differentiate, to learn, and to increase its variety. But these are not the only examples. Another example you may have heard this morning is Berzerga. Different sector. Berzerga is a non-profit organization in the Netherlands providing neighborhood care. Just a Block, a nurse, created this organization to fight bureaucracy. And the organization today is made by 14,000 nurses that are organizing 1,000 autonomous self-managing teams without any boss, without any manager, and only with a minimum amount of central infrastructure. There is no planning, there is no marketing. There are only 18 coaches that give suggestions to the nurses, and only 50 admins in the organization. But the nurses have the responsibility basically to do everything, to find patients, to treat patients, to hire other nurses, to train the nurses, and to do all of the job without any in central overhead. And through this, actually, the organization is performing better than the market, and the money that the company is saving by reducing this overhead is paid back to the nurses. So what I'm saying is that we are seeing more and more organizations that try to unbundle the firm, that tries to split even huge companies, 14,000 people or 80,000 people, into many small teams that are self-managed and autonomous. But the other trend that we see is also the rebundling of the firm. This is another example, very well known, Morningstar. Basically, Morningstar is a leader in tomato processing, but the way in which they're organized is not really the traditional organizational chart, not really the traditional hierarchy. It's a network of individuals that negotiate between them, upstream and downstream, the kind of activities that they want to provide and that they want to receive through what they call colleague letter of understanding. They are basically contracts that are enforced through software in which different individuals negotiate how they are going to collaborate. So the organization, it's very fluid, it's very transparent, it's supported by software, and it scales very well because it removes all the bureaucracy that we see. So not only in this case, the organization has been unbundled to single individuals, but it's also been rebundled through software and multilateral commitments. In a nutshell, what is happening is that the future that we are seeing is not about new forms of organizations. It's a new way of organizing. Whether we are talking about the market or we are talking about the internal of the enterprise, and actually we can demonstrate that the same patterns apply both on the market and inside the organization. And Dave Snowden, one of the most important voices right now about complexity, said that what we are looking for are unique solutions that could emerge, that could adapt for organizing, but that also could guarantee a coherent whole. And this is the problem, because there are many examples of organizations that have been unbundled. The big question is, when you have 1,000 teams or 10,000 teams, how can you guarantee coherence? How you can still let the organization work and go in the same direction? Until now, we have used the hierarchy. But hierarchy is too rigid. Hierarchy doesn't emphasize learning. Hierarchy doesn't create engagement. Is there a different way of spreading the firm, of fragmenting the firm, but then reintegrating the firm without hierarchy? Well, Ayer, the white good appliances leader, is, to my knowledge today, the best example in the world of how you can do this at scale, really in any industry. In 1982, Ayer didn't exist. It was the household appliances division in China, and it was basically a fake company on the brink of bankruptcy. At that point, 20% of the refrigerators were defective. Customers were really not happy, and the director of that age, Zhang Ruimin, invited all the employees in the hall, gave them a hammer, and asked them to smash refrigerators. And just keep in mind that at that point, refrigerators had a cost that was higher than 1 year of salary for a Chinese employee. So this was a very strong message. And he said, if we don't destroy these refrigerators today, what is going to be destroyed is our company in the future. What he wanted to do is to highlight the importance of bringing the customer at the center of the business. And even if in China in those years, it was perfectly fine to buy defective devices because people would fix them and resell them. He wanted to give this message. From that event, after a few years, Ayer was born, and Jiang Ruimin became the CEO philosopher of the company. And he guided the company across 6 business and organizational transformations, from command and control up to what we know today as the Rendanheyi, or bringing every employee in direct contact with customers, zero distance from the customers. And he went through this, basically rethinking the business model, rethinking the strategy, and rethinking organizational culture and design for 36 years without any stop. There are not many examples in the world of an organization that today has more than 80,000 people that kept successfully reinventing from the foundations for 6 times across a number of decades. And why they did that? They did that, as I said, first of all, because they wanted to reduce the distance between the company and customer needs and result. Actually, the salaries today of employees in Ayer are paid directly by customers. They are not paid by Ayer. They're paid by the results that they generate for end consumers. The second idea was taking inspiration from the market, and especially from the new dynamics introduced by the Internet of Things, and bringing those dynamics within the organization, bringing, if you want, collaboration, but also competition within the firm. The third point was about creating an adaptive organization, something that could be much more flexible, much more fluid than the hierarchy, because they were already understanding the need to evolve. And think about the importance of this need now in the era of COVID, but the same need was already unfolding in the previous decades. Fourth point was unlocking entrepreneurship. The idea that Jiang Ruimin had in mind was to make every colleague, every employee into his or around CEO, to take responsibility to look for opportunities, to reduce the organizational and technical debt, and run on those opportunities and create new services and new products. And finally, the last point was believing that the teams could manage themselves without any manager and with the maximum autonomy in terms of strategy, in terms of picking the right people, in terms of deciding the wages of the people. Well, these principles do not only apply to Ayer. This principle may be the core for what will determine survival in the current market for a number of firms. That's why at Boundaryless, we got interested into the Rendanheyi. We started collaborating with Ayer, and we tried to learn and to abstract the principles and practices behind the model. And in a nutshell, this is the model. It looks much more organic than the typical organizational design. And it has 3 main concepts. The first concept is the microenterprise. 80,000 people are organized in 4,000 small teams. Microenterprises, autonomous, lots of freedom, that could be inside the organization, could be made of employees, or could be even made from people that do not belong to Ayer. Boundaryless today is a microenterprise, even if we are not Ayer employees, but we are part of their organization and we interact with their organization. The second concept is the ecosystem micro community. And Ayer came to this after a number of decades. Microenterprises can compete. So basically, you are competing with your colleagues. We can provide the same service. And if I'm best at providing that service, probably you need to find a different service to provide. We are not only competing internally, we are also competing externally. Ecosystem micro community are a way to foster collaboration. They are not structured, they are not teams, they are dynamic contracts. They are agreements in which different micro enterprise decide which services they are providing and what's the returns that each one of them is going to get back. And ecosystem micro community are created around customer needs, around user scenarios. They are meant to pull together different micro enterprises to create more sophisticated and richer services for customers. And the last artifacts are platforms. Platforms are a way to unbundle also strategy making. So even strategy is not centralized in Hire. It's made by industry platforms, topics, if you want, on which Hire puts money. Think about Internet of Food or Internet of Clothing. Hire decides these are strategic bets they want to address, puts money on the table, and the micro enterprises and the EMCs can take that money and can work with it. And the second form of platform are shared service platforms. And these are the old functions that we have seen in organizations, HR, finance, IT. They are the biggest source of bureaucracy in our organizations. Well, even HR, finance, and IT become micro enterprises. They have to demonstrate the value. They have to sell their services to their peers. And if their peers are not happy, they will buy those services outside from Hire. So these are the three concepts. What we are doing at Boundaryless is working with Hire, working with a number of organizations around the globe that are trying to take inspiration from Hire. Right now, there are 62,000 companies in the world, with many that are Fortune 500 that are learning and looking at Hire for new ideas. We want to bring these ideas in an environment that is not China, that is a culturally different than China, has rules different than China, but that could even still benefit from those ideas. And we believe there are three core concepts. That's why we call it the entrepreneurial ecosystem enabling organization. The first key point, and this is a need that most organizations in the world right now have, is how can we increase the level of entrepreneurship in our organizations. This is true for small companies, but it's even more true for big, bureaucratic, slow incumbents. We want to continuously identify new opportunities, pursue new opportunities with the less resistance from legacy systems, from existing culture, from the position advantage that existing employees have. The second topic is not just competition, not just exploration, but also collaboration. How can we empower the maximum level of collaboration between different micro enterprises within the organization or beyond the organization? And the third level is the unbundling of common services, common investment, and common infrastructure, not using those as barriers, as factors that are slowing down the organization, but as accelerators of business results and of value for the end customers. In a sense, Hire is trying to fight organizational bureaucracy that it's estimating today to be a $10 trillion toll on our existing economy. Everything that is not needed, basically, it's got rid of. So going to the three levels, the first level is being entrepreneurial. The micro enterprise have the mandate to find the customer needs. They have their specific profit and loss, so they can decide how much money they want to spend, and this money should be balanced by profit. The only ask that Hire is doing for them is for them to exceed a market average performance. There is this concept of leading targets, but as long as you do better than the market, you can do whatever you want. There is no middle management. There are no actually managers, and the micro enterprise is self-managed. It has lots of freedom in picking the direction, in deciding the people that it wants to have, deciding the pay of these people, deciding how to share profit. And the money that employees in the micro enterprise get is directly a function of the revenues that the micro enterprise is generating from customers. Many of these employees are actually owners that put their own money, that they invest on the micro enterprises, that could get rewarded by even becoming rich if the micro enterprise is working. If the micro enterprise is not working, they need to find another micro enterprise or another opportunity for work. But in the meanwhile, they have a universal basic income. Employees can bid on the micro enterprises. So at the end, you can decide where you want to work, and the micro enterprise can accept you or not, but you have the freedom to pick. There is nobody doing work allocation and telling you to work with this team or that team. It's entirely an emergent process. The second dimension is the ecosystemic one. And here, we are trying to foster collaboration. The EMC, as I said, are dynamic contracts that define the rules, the roles, and the returns for collaboration. Again, here, MEs bid on opportunities. So somebody wakes up, senses an opportunity on the market, creates a new enterprise micro communities, and start looking for micro enterprises that could provide those services. And thanks to internal reputation mechanisms, micro enterprises are chosen, and they are required to then provide the services. If they achieve the results as an enterprise micro community, the value will be automatically shared to the components of the enterprise micro community. If the results are not achieved, penalties will be issued to the components of the enterprise micro community. So at the end, you have both upsides and downsides. The micro enterprises that take part to an EMC can be external. So you can pick people from outside Hire. You are totally free into that. You can find an IT provider, a developer, a legal support, whatever you want, if you are not satisfied with what you can find internally. And the third level is investment and support functions. As I said, Hire is constantly looking for new opportunities. These new opportunities are always coming from the market, coming from end users and end user scenarios. They're not decided autocratically from the CEO or from the board. And the way to pool activity on this opportunity is investment. So getting access to money to create your own microenterprise or EMC. And they also have technology, basically an internal market through which supply and demand of services can match. Once this happens, the collaboration is described as a smart contract and enabled by their blockchain. So the value distribution is automatic. Support functions such as legal, HR, IT also becomes a set of micro enterprises. HR is an example, is probably their best example today of a shared service platforms. That means that you cannot disappoint your colleagues. You need to make your colleagues happy if you want to keep working. So why this is important? This is important because thanks to this transformation, Hire is achieving extreme results, $40 billion a year. Last year, they grew more than 10%, 52% in Italy, 61% in Germany, even during the pandemic. They even bought companies. In the US, they bought GE Appliances a company that even didn't know that Hire existed, and that still had been acquired by Hire, or Candy in Europe, the same. So Hire is no longer a Chinese company. It's a global company that many other organizations are starting to study, because through this approach of self-governance, of inspiration from the market, uh, it's now demonstrating that you are getting a better business performance, better innovation performance, more employee engagement, and also more sustainability. And Hire is only one of the examples that are going in this direction. What we are doing with the 3EO is to reconnect the Hire experience with 40 years of organizational development with complex adaptive systems. And there are many organizations that went through an entrepreneurial transformation, starting from Valve in video games, Whole Foods, Handelsbanken in any industry, or even Kyocera that tried amoeba management in 1959. So this is really not new. What is a bit more new is the ecosystemic and the enabling sides. Companies such as Spotify, such as Amazon, Morningstar, as we have seen, have found ways to connect the micro enterprises, connect the small teams at scale, to empower them through software, for example, to collaborate. And finally, there is this enabling level in which the company overhead has been unbundled, has been reduced, and those basic services have been put at the disposal of every part of the organization. Just to give you another example, Zappos right now went through an holacratic transformation, and now it's going beyond holacracy, using concepts that are very similar to those in Hire. They're using software to see the value generated by every team, but also to see the exchanges between the teams. So the software, when you have thousands and thousands of micro enterprises, of teams working together, is the only one that makes this scalable. So going at the end of my presentation, what I'm trying to say is that since the market is going towards aggregators, it's going towards ecosystems, there is no way we can play a major role in that while still maintaining a top-down hierarchical organization. If you want to be successful, actually, if you want to survive in this new market, we have to transform the inside of the organization. And Hire and other examples in this speech provide some clues about how this could be done. And I would like to leave you with this last sentence from Jiang Zemin. What he said is every empire, for how powerful it could be, will eventually collapse because it's too rigid, it's too vertical, it's not able to learn enough. A rainforest, on the other hand, can be sustained forever because we are not looking at the tree, we are actually looking at the entire forest, and we are creating the enabling constraints for the forest to succeed. Let me stop here. This is what I wanted to share with you. If you want to know more, most of our content is in open source, Creative Commons, so you can go on the site and you can download our EEEO toolkit, a number of canvases to try to apply these concepts in your own organization. And if you really want to know more, we are having a masterclass with Bill Fisher, one of the professor at the MIT and IMD, that has been studying Hire for 20 years. And that together with us is helping the Hire Model Research Institute to share a bit of this with the rest of the world beyond China. At the bottom of this diagram, this picture, you can also find a link to get a discount. So if you want to join us, if you want to know more, just reach out to me or click and you'll be able to join one of our masterclasses.